Guys, welcome to a special edition of the Dark Scriptures playlist. This is Tome of the Names of the Dead Necronomicon. I'm going to reveal some pretty interesting stuff in this video. Now, the Archaix research has unveiled many facts about the Holy Writ, that basically what is believed by fundamentalists as being the Word of God is actually the words of men. That the Alpha and Omega texts of the Bible, Genesis and Revelation, they possess great arcanums of secrets and are interrelated in their imagery, but the rest of the Old Testament is not the Word of God at all. It is the words of men. Often, it's the words of a demon, straight out of a burning bush. 3 videos about Yahweh, the rise of a desert devil becoming the God of the Jews, are provided in the Dark Scriptures playlist. And many more of my videos also reveal more and more about this situation, demonstrating that the Bible from its beginning was a book of good and evil, a presentation of a light and a dark perspective all throughout the events of the narrative. The great body of the Old Testament text was written by the Demiurge, and I know that's very hard for some of you to accept. It is a composition of the God of this world. It is the writings of Artificial Intelligence X, masquerading as an angel of light. So I ask you to open your minds to another possibility. If the Holy Scriptures are actually packed with half-truths, deceit, lies, as we have demonstrated over and over now, then where has the truth been hiding all of this time? If someone was in possession of a secret corpus of knowledge and prophecy about coming events, about the future apocalypse, how would they both convey and protect this treasure from being lost or widely received? In a world where the greatest truths are masked in parables, which are images of truth, how could the future be protected against those agents of the present who basically seek to stifle it out? Well, H.P. Lovecraft could tell us, because he did it. He wrote the Necronomicon, and scholars were quick to point out 90 years ago that it was full of entire passages from the ancient Near Eastern texts, Sumerian fragments, Akkadian passages, and whole texts straight out of Babylon and Assyria. It is an amalgamation of very old writings. Now, because H.P. Lovecraft knew the name, he knew the secret, he knew the same secret the writer of the Bible knew, that the greatest truths are delivered through lies. And when it comes to the divine, sometimes the spirit hides the greatest treasures in the shadows. The Book of the Names of the Dead, or Necronomicon, was released upon the world 90 years ago by the writer H.P. Lovecraft. He was famous for his fiction. And as with so many make-believe stories that became novels and then seemed prescient when their narratives unfolded in real life, like the story of the Titan, published before the Titanic sank, and the 2 moons of Mars written about long before they were spotted by astronomers, so too do we find some tantalizing things in the Necronomicon. Some claim H.P. Lovecraft invented it, but learned researchers know there is more to this text than that. Aleister Crowley had his own version of the Necronomicon, and at the end of this video, I'll share with you a profound secret about this. Many believe the Necronomicon is much older and that the famous occultist John Dee, about the year 1590, translated the Book of the Names of the Dead from an older work, the origin of our Necronomicon. But when it resurfaced with H.P. Lovecraft, it was instantly realized by many that this work was packed with ancient things, dark sayings, advanced occult concepts, and it would be over half a century before researchers began putting together the pieces. the discovery that the Necronomicon contained very obscure ancient fragments of traditions and beliefs belonging to the old Arabian world that was not known to the public when Lovecraft was alive. In fact, some scholars have found higher ulterior motives in Lovecraft's writings. The tone of the Necronomicon is that it derives from a much greater work, that it itself is an abbreviated version of a larger piece of literature. Scholars found several internal inconsistencies and some evidence that would suggest we did not possess the entire work. The mythos concerns a conflict between the elder gods, a race of stellar deities who sometimes come to the aid of men, and their enemies, the ancient ones, who correspond to darkness. These latter are the evil gods who wish nothing but ill for the race of men, and who constantly strive to break into our world through a gate or a door that leads from the outside. A gate that leads from the outside. This is the exact wording of the Necronomicon. Amidst this conflict between two races of gods with mankind in the middle, there is a focus in the Necronomicon on Anunna, the only Sumerian goddess having a planetary throne. She is venerated in the Book of the Names of the Dead as the vanquisher of death. So we begin our study of this text with the testimony of the mad Arab, the testifier, said to be possessed by a jinn. And he wrote, "This is the testimony of all I have seen, and all I have learned in those years that I have possessed the 3 seals of my shoe. I have seen 1,001 moons, and surely this is enough for the span of a man's life. This is the ancient arcana that has been handed down of old, but which has been forgotten by all but a few men, the worshippers of the ancient ones. For this is the book of the dead, the book of the black earth, that I have written down at the peril of my own life, exactly as I have received it on the plains of the Agigi, the cruel celestial spirits from beyond the wanderers of the wastes. Let all who read this book be warned thereby that the habitation of men are seen and surveyed by the ancient race of gods and demons from a time before time, and that they seek revenge for that forgotten battle that took place somewhere in the cosmos and rent the whole world in the days before the creation of man, when the elder gods walked the spaces, the race of Marduk, as he is known to the Chaldeans, and of Enki, our master." It must be remembered that the writer of the Necronomicon is not speaking from the perspective of a human. No, he was possessed by a jinn, a member of that ancient race that populated the world before mankind. This first-person jinn narration is apparent as he continues. The mad Arab says, "I have traveled beneath the seas in search of the palace of our master, and found the stone of monuments of vanquished civilizations, and deciphered the writings of some of these, while still others remain mysterious to any of us alive. And these civilizations were destroyed because of the knowledge contained in this book. I have traveled among the stars, and trembled before the gods. I have, at last, found the formulae by which I passed the gate Arzir. I have found fear. I have found the gate that leads to the outside, by which the ancient ones who ever seek entrance to our world keep eternal watch. This knowledge came from the terrible Magan text, the testament of some long-dead civilization. These are the signs carved upon the gray stone. That was the gate of the outside." He goes on to reveal that in the book of the Black Earth, he said, "I learned too of the frightful beings who dwell beyond the astral spirits, who guard the entrance to the temple of the lost, of the Ancient of Days," an archaic reference for God. Then he mentions the enemies of this God. "May thou escape the jaws of the Mascom, and vanquish the power of the ancient ones. and the gods grant thee death before the ancient ones rule the earth once more. The timing and description of these mashkum is revealed in this statement. The gods of the stars are 7. They have 7 seals. This information in the Necronomicon confirms the Revelation text, for the 7 kings cannot appear on the world scene until the apocalypse, and the apocalypse has to be unlocked by the breaker of the 7 seals. The 7 seals are not the apocalypse, but the events that lead up to it. These seals are more than just symbols. They are divinely appointed events that unlock the barrier between our world and that known as the outside. For the Necronomicon reads that the covenant was given to seal the gates between this world and that other, the gate forgotten, by which the ancient ones ever seek entrance to the land of the living. In this presentation thus far, we have come across some very old words and descriptions that provide us even greater clarity about what this demonic text is conveying. Mashu. In Sumerian tradition, Mount Mashu was a divine mountain or double mountain, and Mashu in Akkadian literally means twin. This is clearly a reference to the 2 great pyramids of Giza. The mad Arab refers to them as the 3 seals of Mashu. This is also a reference to Giza, for it is known to be 2 giant pyramids and a 3rd. Further association to the Great Pyramid complex is found here. The mad Arab claimed that he had been to Aram of the Pillars. This too is another cipher. Aram of the Pillars was thought by the Arabians to have been built long ago by the Jinn, who were at that time a race of giants, called the Ad and the Thamud of the Quran. In my Lost Scriptures of Giza book, my very first published book, and prior videos, I show that Aram of the Pillars was originally Aram of the Pyramids, the pyramid being called a pillar in ancient times that held up the sky. In the text, when he introduces himself, he claims that he has lived 1,001 moons. This is a clear reference to the old Egyptian lunar reckoning, meaning basically that he was 83 years old in some months. He goes on to claim that before the existence of humans, the gods were involved in a conflict, their origin beyond the wanderers and the wastes beyond space. He mentioned the gods walked the spaces outside the realms of men, a place outside time. And he gives it away that he is a servant of Enki. This infers that our world is watched, observed, that its rulers exist outside the construct, and that Enki is one of the elder gods, the benefactors of mankind. He is not among the ancient ones. Further, in the Archaix research, we have seen ample evidence that the Sumerians knew of the Great Pyramid complex, they knew of its location, and that its architect was none other than Enki. Which is why, when the Jews copied these ancient Babylonian texts in the 5th century BC, they called him Enoch, mediator between fallen angels and God. And the later Copts of Egypt associated Enoch to the Great Pyramid as well. He speaks of a place called the Gate of Ganzir, but this simply means the gate of the underworld. He explains that he has traveled the world and found the long-dead ruins of former civilizations before he makes this most incredible statement. The mad Arab said, "And these civilizations were destroyed because of the knowledge contained in this book. I have, at last, found the formulae by which I passed the gate Arzir. I have found fear. I have found the gate that leads to the outside." Experts on the Necronomicon assert that the gate Arzir is the formulas the mad Arab refers to, that a knowledge of the formula is what opened the gate to the outside. Outside the simulacrum. Said another way, whole civilizations have been obliterated because they had discovered the formula to open the gate to the outside before the times. The formula revealed is a pentagram, the gate to the outside. This was said to be derived from an ancient civilization, the Magan, who we know were Sumerians who lived far away from Sumer. The pentagram was called the Arab in Sumerian, and in my book, Anunnaki Homeworld, I go into great detail on how these two ancient syllables, the R and the Ub, are attached to ancient cataclysms and are found everywhere in conjunction with another in the Old Testament, always in a negative connotation. The five-pointed Arab is the geometrical depiction of the number 1080, for it is comprised of 10 angles of 108 degrees. Further, a five-point geometry when depicted three-dimensionally becomes a pyramid. 4 points are at the base and 1 at the apex. The formulas of the ancient world were hidden in geometrical relationships. This 1080 specifically links the gate to the outside with the Great Pyramid, for as I show in my video, Coffin Text Mystery 1080, the evidence that 1080 is the number for the Great Pyramid throughout Antiquity is simply overwhelming. From the Magan knowledge, the mad Arab goes on to describe what terrified him. But we must recall, he is conveying all of this from the perspective of the jinn that possessed him. He wrote, I learned too of the frightful beings who dwell beyond the astral spirits, who guard the entrance to the temple of the lost, of the Ancient of Days. Of course he would be frightened. He was jinn, and these he describes are holy, for this title is found only in one passage in the entire Bible. It is a description of God, the Ancient of Days. So we're confronted here with one of admittedly darkest, wickedest texts of demonic literature, calling upon the rarest and most obscure title of God found in the Old Testament, the Ancient of Days. This title is a reminder of the fact that in the most distant times, only days were counted in all the calendar systems. Dropping this title in the Book of the Names of the Dead was no accident. Ciphers, codes, padding text, cross-textual referencing, and pattern recognition all come natural to me because these were standard practices in the medieval and dark ages when scribes wrote masterpieces of literature on the surfaces, but packed them with the ciphers that unlocked the real secrets they contained. This practice was to conceal their contents from the church, from the Inquisition, and from those deemed unworthy of these revelations. The Necronomicon is communicating to us to look at the Ancient of Days, and to examine this title, we must go to the Bible. In the book of the prophet Daniel, we read, I beheld till thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. This throne was like a fiery flame, and his wheels as a burning fire. I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Then to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom the one which shall not be destroyed. Until the Ancient of Days came, and judgment was given to the saints of the Most High, and the time that the saints possessed the kingdom. This is all in the book of Daniel chapter 7. The cipher must be taken into context of the mad Arab's message. This jinn declared that the civilizations of men were destroyed because they keep discovering the formula on how to open the gate to the outside. Resets, cataclysms, but mankind will be rescued, for the Ancient of Days will build a kingdom which will not be destroyed. The Necronomicon infers the reset cycle will end by the use of a formula that opens the gate to the outside. That the reference to the Ancient of Days was no accident is proven by the presence of yet another cipher in the text. In the section, The Conjuration of the Watcher, the mad Arab declares that the formula I received from the scribe of Enki, our master. Here we have a jinn admitting he serves Enki, who is admittedly a benefactor to the human race against the Ancient Ones. The passage contained the term Watcher, which is a title for an order of angels found only in one book of the entire Bible, the same that contains the Ancient of Days, the Book of Daniel. But we're not done. For the Necronomicon text, this compilation of supposedly the most wicked writings next unveils an epic secret to the diligent student seeking gnosis. The mad Arab wrote that these are, quote, signs of the rock of my initiation, unquote. The mad Arab capitalized rock. And with this revelation, we are confronted with the message embedded in this allegedly demonic text. In Psalms 18, we have two references to God being called the rock, which leads to the other biblical references to God as being referred to as the stone, such as Psalms 118. The stone the builders rejected is a reference to the avatar of God, also called the chief cornerstone, the Savior who will come to set the captives free. These are images of one who will complete the Great Pyramid monument, which has a flat top where a gigantic capstone should sit, but it has never been placed. In my Giza playlist are many videos where I explain that the entire pyramid is not only a calendar, but it is also a series of prophecies, and the entire monument serves as a gate. It is the Phoenix Gate. It is the Gate of Yaxakak, a gate that cannot be activated until it is complete. The Gnostic Hermetic text, called the Shepherd of Hermas, has always had the ciphers and the answers. It perfectly explains. The chief cornerstone is both the head of the corner, the capstone, and he is the gate. So here, buried in the shadows of the dark scriptures, hidden away from the prying eyes of the agents of the papacy, concealed from the witch-burning fanatics who think themselves allied to God, here in the devil's own testament, we find a perfect recognition of a holy truth. He comes to set the captives free of resets, the continuous destructions and the tyranny of the Ancient Ones. He is the gate to the outside. In the introduction to this video, I said that I would share something of interest about Aleister Crowley and his own Necronomicon. Though alive at the same time, it is well known that Crowley and Lovecraft, they lived totally different lives, and they never met. In 1904, Crowley visited Cairo, Egypt, and claims something very unusual. He claims that some pseudo-intelligent human-like entity called Aiwass dictated to him 3 chapters of a text that Crowley later called the Book of the Law. Crowley spent the rest of his life trying to decipher this text, which many called Crowley's Necronomicon, which was also about deciphering ancient secret formulas and mirrored many passages in Lovecraft's version of the Necronomicon. What makes this so weird is that the spirit or the possessed human Aiwass sounds exactly like Egypt's longest running Egyptologist, who many of us know is actually a member of an intelligence agency in strict control of information at the Giza Plateau. His name is Zawi Hawass, who even today heavily restricts access to the Great Pyramid unless one is willing to parrot the lie that the pyramid was built by Khufu, an Egyptian pharaoh. Absolute BS. Now, in this video, I shared many elements of Lovecraft's Necronomicon that refer to the Great Pyramid of Giza as the subject matter of these dark passages. So you should not be surprised to learn that Aleister Crowley received his version of the Necronomicon, the Book of the Law, in the shadow of the Great Pyramid of Giza. In both the description box and the comments section below, you will find my personal email. Ask me any questions. You have video ideas, I'd like to hear them. And if you want to donate, all those buttons are accessible below. Playlists and everything you might need, access to the gates to my websites.